Mr. Hardy grinned. "Get into the car, and I'll explain." As they drove off, the detective told his sons that he had been working in Montreal.
Stop watching porn. If you do watch porn. If you don't watch porn,
Continue to not.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today, though. Not for the most part, anyway. I don't know. Sometimes I segue into a rant about porn out of nowhere, but for now.
Today, we're going to talk about why you're going to hell.
Yes. And why there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, this is your channel.
But
You have
anyway,
to take charge.
no, we're not from Westboro Baptist Church. We're not from Landover Baptist Church. Oh my gosh.
I don't think they're real.
They aren't. Anyway, thankfully. But today we're going to talk about the heresy of worry.
Yep.
Because I know that's kind of a big label to put on something like that. But really, when you think about it, and we're going to explain why in just a minute here, when you think about it, it really does, worrying does have some really serious implications about how you view God, about how you view yourself and your relationship with God, about how you view the world that God has created, all kinds of different things.
Sparrows ain't do it, neither should you.
Yeah, exactly. The sparrow doesn't worry. Nothing that God has created, except for us humans, really worries about anything.
Yeah.
And it's kind of something that we've, whether we've invented it or whether Satan has introduced it to us.
Could it be?
Whichever way it is, it could be. But it's not something that we really need to mess with.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, God knows everything that's going on, and He ain't worried about it. So, anyway, let's get started here a little bit more coherent.
Yeah.
Personal worries from the past. And let's just start from the very basics here, which would be just the position of failure. I used to worry about stuff all the time. You know, this is related to the video that we just did on fear and anxiety.
Yeah,
but I used to deal with worry a lot. And that would come in the form of social anxiety. It would come in the form of, just to give one funny example here, when I got my first job, I don't know if I ever told you about this either. Yeah.
Okay.
But when I got my first job, you know, I was applying to anywhere within walking distance because I didn't have a car at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I got a call, had an interview, and then they put me on schedule for orientation. And I was terrified, absolutely horrified, and this is the stupidest thing. I was horrified that I would just happen to get sick the first day of work.
Yeah.
And that would just soil my reputation forever. And I would lose my job because they wouldn't believe it. They'd think I just, was lazy or whatever. It would just give me a horrible reputation. I'd never be able to get a job anywhere else again. This was actually stuff that was going through my head.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid. Not only that I thought that all that was going to go down. I was healthy. I hadn't been sick in a long time. And in fact, after that point...
So you were due.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I got sick for 3 years after that either. I probably could have gotten sick just with how stressed and worried I was over that.
Yeah.
But, nothing happened. And here's the thing. Even if all that did happen, from the Christian perspective, from the viewpoint of, okay, God knows what's going on. God's all-powerful. God's my friend. I have a relationship with God here. I have a relationship with God. God cares about me. God loves me. And I'm a child of God. I'm a servant of God with a mission here on this planet. To think that, okay, well, this one little, stupid little thing I'm worrying about.
This hiccup will ruin my life.
Yeah, to think that this is just going to totally screw up all of God's plans for me or anything like that. However you want to phrase it. It's ridiculous. And you know what? Maybe God's plans for you aren't exactly what you have in mind. Maybe God's plans for you do seem tragic from your perspective, from anyone's perspective, really. A lot of times that's what happens. And yet, even then, God knows what's going on.
Yeah.
God knows your ultimate destiny. He knows what He's got in store for you. And whether that's something that is pleasant or comfortable for you here on this earth, or whether it's not, you can't worry about it because He knows more than you do. He has this stuff planned out so well, so much better than you possibly could. And His plans, whatever they are, however comfortable they are, they're good, and you don't need to worry about it.
Right.
I mean, God has got you, whether you're comfortable in this life or the next. Take John the Baptist, for example. Okay, John the Baptist followed God all the way through. Jesus said that John the Baptist was the greatest person the greatest man ever born of a woman. So pretty much the best guy ever.
Right.
Just the best dude. Like, you point to 1,000 other dudes, these are like the best dudes you can think of. This guy was better than all those dudes. His reward, his lifestyle here on this earth was poverty, and then I think he got his head cut off. So, yeah, from our perspective, pretty tragic. And yet Jesus said, this is the greatest guy ever. And John the Baptist, I don't think that he was, just terrified, the world is coming to an end because my life isn't comfortable, or because all these things are going wrong, or because his mission seems like it was cut short. This was all part of God's plan. His reward in heaven was great, and he didn't have to worry about any of it. Maybe he did at points. He was a man just like us. But ultimately, we look back now, and
he was a great man.
Yeah, he was a great man, lived a great life. It was a great story. He had a great testimony, and he was an example to stick through it to the end there, even though he didn't have any payoff for it in this life.
Right, and we see that all throughout Scripture, whether it was Job, or whether it was David, or whether it's John the Baptist. These guys that are wonderful servants of the Lord, who have horrible, terrible things happen to them. Everything you could imagine happened to Job, right? David was running and hiding, and of course John the Baptist got his head chopped off. Horrible, terrible things happening to all of them, and they served the Lord through all of it. Even though David had his sort of Green Day phases, he was still praising the Lord throughout. And that ties in to, I think, what would be another good point is: are you doing everything you know to do? Right. So if you're serving God and you're working for God, and you're intentionally living for God, and then you worry about something, that shows a lack of trust. That shows a lack of faith in God. If you're doing everything you know how to do, there's absolutely no reason to worry. And if something bad happens, I don't like saying bad things. I like saying things that we perceive as bad, right?
Fortunate.
Yeah. Things that we think are unfortunate, or things that we perceive as bad.
Uncomfortable really is a good word for that.
Yeah, that are happening now. Well, if we can look and say, well, I'm serving the Lord, I'm still tithing, I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that, I'm still reading my Bible, whatever things. If I'm doing everything I know how to do, and then these bad or uncomfortable things are still happening, they're meant to happen. I can't worry about it, right? And you just face it. You continue doing what you know how to do. But if you are living with a purpose and that kind of thing, and you're worrying, then you don't trust God. It's simple as that. It's clear cut as that. That sounds like a broad sweeping statement. That sounds like it's overly simplified. But if you worry about things, you don't trust God. And I can say that confidently. I think you'd agree.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. This is. When we think about what worry is, it's just this fear over something that in a lot of cases you can't really control.
Yeah. Now, as you say that, I want to kind of finish that and say, if you are not doing everything you know to do, then it's a simple fix. Start doing those things. You say out of your control. If there are things that are in your control that you're not doing, you need to get on those, right? And even then, worry isn't appropriate. Action is. Even then, worry isn't productive. Still, you just need to, get your stuff together and begin doing those things you need to do. So, I just want to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about obedience is, God doesn't hold us responsible for the results of our obedience. All we have to do is obey. We do exactly what He says to do. The results, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable, whether they seem like they're good or bad, that's totally up to Him.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about whether whatever you do, whatever God has called you to do, you don't have to worry about what the results of that will be, because God's the one who has basically agreed to handle all that. He tells you exactly what to do. He doesn't tell you what results to get. He tells you what to do.
Right.
And if you do it, then you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's all God expects of you.
And that's what faith is. That's truly what faith and trust is saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to obey God. Another perfect example is Noah, right? None of these people, I guess, to my knowledge, theologians, historians, whatever, but none of these people had ever seen rain, yeah? Is that accurate?
Probably. It's been a while since I've been through Genesis.
My understanding is none of the people at that time had seen rain. You got your water from bodies of water and lakes, streams, oceans, whatever, and it never came from the sky, right? And here Noah was. God's like, listen, it's gonna pour, just constantly, and you're gonna build a boat so that you don't die. All of his neighbors are like, what's gonna? You said what now? What are you talking about? And he was just like minding his own business, building the freaking ark, right? Perfect example of faith. God's told him something crazy is going to happen, and he's got no practical reason to believe that, no evidence-based reasons to believe that, other than obviously the voice of God. And he obeys anyway, right? That's what we have to do. You say,
and he doesn't call it off because of what somebody's going to think,
right?
Or because, oh, well, I'm not qualified to build this kind of thing, so it probably won't work anyway.
Right.
What if it doesn't work? What if it leaks? What if?
Yeah, he didn't think about any of those things, or maybe he did, but he worked anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be true of any kind of thing that we feel called by God to do. We might not always see that result. Another good example is tithing. You could, have a lot of bills to pay, and you'd say most of your paycheck went to those bills and went to electricity and your car, gas, or whatever, and then you're left with, $50, right? Say $50 is 10% of your paycheck. Sunday comes around, and you're like, I don't have food right now. I was going to use these $50 to buy groceries, but I need to tithe, right? And if you're thinking, well, if I tithe, then I'll starve to death, you don't trust God, But we're called to do that. We're called to tithe anyway. We're called to serve anyway, even if we think it's going to go poorly, right? Unless you're supposed to die then and there, God's not going to let you. Right? You're not gonna suffer some horrible, terrible fate because you obeyed God. And even if you do suffer some sort of bad fate,
like getting your head cut off,
storing up treasures in heaven, right? So either way, life or death, there's no reason to worry. And if you're fearing things in this life, then you don't trust God. And it's as simple as that. As long as you're doing what you know to do, what you know is right, and you're trying to obey God to the best of your ability, there's nothing to worry about. And if you do worry, you're a filthy heretic. That's what we started the video on. You're going to hell. Maybe not hell, but you shouldn't.
Well, God's grace is endless, and if you repent of your heresy,
and if you pay the Catholic Church X amount of money.
Well, I've actually got some Catholic friends on the internet now.
Repent. So. Check. Anyway, do you got anything else to add? That's about all I got.
I think that's pretty much it there, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't worry about stuff, okay? Don't be like, what's going to happen? Am I able to do this? Am I qualified to do this thing that God has told me to do? That's ridiculous, okay?
Yeah, do you think Noah was qualified to make boats?
No, probably not. I don't think he had any experience there.
Yeah.
But it's there's this little thing that goes off in my head every once in a while when somebody else trusts me to do something that I'm not 100% confident in doing.
Yeah.
Like a while ago, for a youth event, the youth pastor wanted me to drive the youth van to carry the students from someplace to someplace, and I wasn't really confident in my own ability to do that. I wasn't.
It's a very large van. We're not talking about
a large
minivan.
van.
Yeah, we're talking about
this is a minivan. This is a large van. This is and this van has a great personality. But
yeah, really, you just got to get to know the van.
Yeah. Anyway, the thing is, I was not confident in my ability to drive that van. If he had said, "Okay, I need a volunteer to drive this van, raise your hand," my hand would not have gone up at all.
Yeah.
However, when he asked me to do that, I thought, okay, you know what? I don't have 100% confidence in my ability to do this well. However, I'm confident that he knows me well enough and he has good enough judgment that he wouldn't have asked me to do this unless he knew that it was going to be okay. I trust him. I know how to drive, so I mean, it's not like I have no idea what I'm doing here. So yeah, I mean, it can't be that bad really, and it wasn't.
Yeah,
it was fine, no problems whatsoever. It was actually a little bit faster than I thought it would be, but I'm used to driving slow cars anyway. So
Pieces of Euro trash.
Not so much that, but anyway. And then so much more for God. You know, God is so much wiser, he has so much better judgment than anyone on this earth does.
Oh, it's the best.
And so if he calls you to do something, then that's pretty much the best qualifier you have. That's better than any kind of training or any kind of certification or anything like that. If God says you're good to do it, then you are good to go.
Yeah.
Okay? So really, just obey God. Just trust him. That's what trust is. Trust is obedience.
Obey and depart from worry.
Exactly. So, yeah, that is about it there, really.
Mm-hmm. This video is Dunyan rings.
Oh, yeah. We're so done. So done. Hey, don't watch porn. If you want more videos like this, subscribe. This is Coath Eli.
Coath_Eli on Instagram. I put up lifting videos.
Yeah. He also has a YouTube channel which he doesn't use. So subscribe to that if you want to make him feel guilty and try to pressure him into making more videos again.
This is how tall I actually am. I'm a man that I was on stilts back there.
Mm-hmm. I, of course, am Bro Hashafet on this here channel. So check out my other videos. If you struggle with porn addiction, I have a whole series on that. So check that out if that's a thing for you. You can wait until whoever's in the room with you leaves to look at that. But anyway, that's about it. So don't worry. Just don't let that into your life. And if it's in your life, get it out. All right? That's about it.
You're worrying. What are you doing?
We'll talk to you guys later.